The artist's brain is an independent variable. When brought into the everyday world, their senses find meaning in even the most mundane observations. The reaction must only be told by the artists themselves. I'm Loverboy, and this is an experiment. Today's guest is a multi-talented artist whose ability to bring characters to life through his animation has allowed him to be in some of the most important rooms in the animation world. With hard work and loads of dedication, he has made his way up the ladder that very few are able to climb. Please welcome today's guest, Danny Lipsky. What's going on, man? It's so good to have you here. How's everything going?
I'm great. I think you oversold me a little, but I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. We're super excited to have you here. For those of you who don't know, Danny is an animator, and not only is Danny an incredible artist, but he's a phenomenal musician as well, playing bass, piano, singing, and guitar. Today we're going to be talking about your journey in animation and how the people that you've surrounded yourself with has helped you get to where you are today. So one of the things I wanted to ask you is, who do you look up to? What animators do you look up to, and what TV shows or movies kind of inspired you to get to where you are right now?
There are a lot of people I look up to that I can kind of credit for putting me where I am today, and they're not all animators, but they are pretty much artists of any kind.
Absolutely.
So, like, I mean, you know me, you know I'm a huge Beatles nerd. They're like the template for everything I do. I want to, like, be Beatles level good. Then there's the creators of, like, the shows that I grew up watching, Matt Groening, who created The Simpsons, Futurama, and now Disenchantment. He was probably my biggest artistic influence. Like, from the age of, I don't know, 7 or 8, I was drawing like Bart Simpson, Homer Simpson in all my notebooks, and that was how I kind of developed my style for cartoons. And then as I got older, my tastes kind of matured. I started watching, more modern and like adult animated shows, and that kind of put me onto the trajectory that I'm on now with like shows like Rick and Morty, Dan Harmon, Justin Roiland, the creators of that show, Alex Hirsch, who created Gravity Falls. Mm-hmm. I can literally go on for.
Are any
forever.
Are any of those people that you've talked about that you looked up to people that you've got to either be in the room with now or have worked on projects with?
Yes. I mean, I should also mention, like, my friends have played a huge part in, like, influencing me and inspiring me. And when I was in school for animation, I was exposed to a lot of shows that I never would have watched had it not been for my friends. They put me on to a show called Harmon Quest, which is created by Dan Harmon, the creator of Rick and Morty. And I became a huge fan of that show in college, in addition to Rick and Morty and all these adult shows that I talked about. And then when I moved out to LA, the first internship I got was on the production of Harmon Quest. So when I moved out to LA, my first break, I guess, was working as an intern on Harmon Quest, and that was like a full circle moment for me because it was the first time that I actively participated on a show that I was familiar with, that I watched and loved, and I got to kind of meet my heroes working on that show, and that was super exciting for a million different reasons.
That's pretty crazy. That really shows that the people that you put yourself in the room with will give you ideas that really could change the course of your life and how you go about doing your profession and your art.
I remember meeting Dan Harmon at the wrap party for the season of Harmon Quest that I worked on, and he had like a reputation for kind of being like, you probably don't want to approach him, just like kind of let him do his thing. But I was like, how can I not? Like, I'm here. I like worked on this show. I'm proud of what I did. I'm excited to like be at a party with this guy. And I walked up to him and I just like introduced myself, and he was super cool, and like we ended up talking for a good while, shared a few drinks, and had a great time. And I don't know, it's like we only go up from here, I guess.
In that situation and getting to work on this show and be in the room with him and eventually end up having drinks and having a very human moment with him, what did that do for you? Did that make you feel like you've done it, or did that put a fire under your butt that you didn't have before? Did that make you want to work harder? Did it make you feel like you were finally there? What did you feel after that situation?
It did both, actually, because on one hand, I kind of felt like, oh, cool, I did what I set out to do. I came out to LA, and within like a year, I had already achieved like the biggest goal I had set for myself. So I was kind of in a position where I was like, okay, what's next? Now what? How do I set another goal for myself? And then that pressure ended up lighting a fire under my ass to like start cranking out more art, more content, and like share my stuff more broadly, like build up a social media presence, that sort of thing. And I would say it kind of directly led to my current job.
And what is your current job?
So I'm currently a production coordinator at Neko Productions. They're a small studio based in Burbank, and I kind of help manage the productions, review animation, that sort of thing. And yeah, and like as much as I love drawing, and that's always going to be like a passion of mine, I always knew within the world of animation, I kind of wanted to rise up a little and not just be like the guy hunched over animating 24/7. I really enjoy the role of delegating and managing and seeing the production from like a wider perspective.
Absolutely. Being involved in more parts of the story than just maybe just the animation. What are some practices that you think helped get you to where you are? If you were talking to a kid where you were maybe 10 years ago or 5 years ago, what would you tell them to allow them to be in a position that you're at?
I would say don't be afraid to struggle or fail or try, because all of those things will happen and they kind of need to happen in order for you to grow and in order for you to take chances and get the opportunities that you need.
And what would you say are some things that along the way were tough for you? Maybe that made you second guess yourself or made you want to find out a new way to go about your situation?
There's definitely just like the general grind of trying to find those opportunities, because people come out here and expect to be on top day one, and it's just the reality is you really have to put yourself out there and you need to struggle for a while.
Sometimes when you're growing up, you look at the people that inspire you and you see their successes. But now that you're actually part of it, you understand that with the successes come multiple failures and comes times that maybe aren't as much fun. You're not always doing exactly what you love.
Yeah. I mean, coming off the high of working on Harmon Quest and stuff, I was unemployed for a bit after that, and I was offered an unpaid internship again, and I was like, I don't know if I really like can handle an unpaid internship, and like just for the opportunity, it doesn't seem worth it. And then like you can never know what opportunities will present themselves if you take a chance. So like I was totally willing to say no to this internship, and a friend convinced me. He's like, hey man, you don't know what this could lead to. And it led to my current job, which I love and I'm super happy about. But like for the duration of the internship, it was like that constant question of like, is it worth it? Where's the light at the end of the tunnel, you know? And then I guess in terms of like pitfalls and struggles working in a profession that you love, I guess a lot of people in the entertainment industry in general forget that like they're doing what they love, but they still have a job to do. And like there is an element of like you got to work your butt off. Like you need to be willing to do the work. You can't just say, "Oh, I'm an animator," and not, put the time in, put the effort in, have something to show.
Yeah, and I guess meeting all these people is incredible, and getting in the room with people that you look up to is amazing. But what's better than that is being ready in those situations and knowing that not only are you meeting these people you look up to, but you have something to show. You have talent to prove. You have something to give to them. What are some things that you think maybe you weren't ready for when you first started? What things could you have done differently, and what things have you since done differently?
I think in terms of what I could have done differently, I could have definitely had a more singular goal in mind for when I came out here. But I'm glad I didn't do that, because I needed that. I mean, that's like part of the journey, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like you need to you need to explore all the other options that are available to you before you can figure out what it is you want to do. So I don't know. I came out here knowing just vaguely I want to work in animation, but didn't know where I fit into the animation industry. And, now I think I've found my calling within that, and it's production, like production development coordinating,
Yeah.
I guess.
Awesome. So you're helping tell the story as a whole now.
Exactly. Because I knew, well, being an animator is very hard. And I did it for a while, but I also realized like I need to have a bigger role in the overall production of a show or a movie. I'm just not content. I mean, I feel like most people in general don't know that much about animation. So the way it breaks down is it's not just one person just doing all the drawings. There are storyboard artists, there are background artists, there are character designers, there are character animators, there are there's like a million different subcategories within any animated production. To me personally, it felt like if I were to be one of those things, I would be selling myself short because I don't really have that broad of an input on the final product. Whereas as a production coordinator or a producer, I can take those big broad strokes and be like, this should happen in the movie, or this, we can cut this scene. Big choices that really affect the overall direction of the story we're trying to tell.
How important do you think it's been for you to surround yourself with like-minded people and people that push you to keep going?
Oh, insanely important. I mean, those like-minded people are the people that that kept me sane anytime I found myself struggling. They're the people that kept me going, that made me feel like, oh, I'm not alone here. There are other people that are out here doing the same thing, trying to make their dream a reality. And it's the biggest encouragement possible when you're dealing with anything, is to be around people who support you and are going through similar things.
Totally. Having people that support you and push you in the right direction is so important, especially in a world, in an industry that's filled with people who maybe don't want you to do well, or people that you have to work with that aren't like-minded and don't think the same way and maybe aren't your favorite people. What are some things that you do when you're in the room with people that aren't your cup of tea?
I'm very lucky that hasn't been the case many times in my experience. That doesn't mean it's never happened. And when it does happen, I don't know. I've had clients in the past, or worked with people who have no business producing anything animated because they don't have a creative bone in their body. You pour all this work into something and they are just completely missing the point of it. And that's incredibly frustrating to deal with. You definitely have to pick your battles in this industry. And I think there are definitely times when you need to stand firm, push back, and be like, hey, this is how we do things here. This is how, this is how the scene will turn out better. This is how the story will be improved. And then there are other times when you kind of need to take a step back and be like, all right, it's not my call, and I just need to shut my mouth and do what this person wants, because ultimately it's it's their project, or they're the ones funding it, or whatever the case.
Yeah, it's a weird world when you're working on something that you can fall in love with and get so close to, yet not all the decisions are yours and not all the pieces fall in the right place.
I will say that probably happens even more so in animation, because there's no way to work on a production without forming some kind of attachment to the characters or the world that you're creating, because you put so much of yourself into those things.
But you're also a pretty passive person. And I think with that is also having a healthy mindset and a healthy brain. You're not only a great artist and a dedicated artist, but you're dedicated to your body and your brain. You're an avid runner. You eat incredibly healthy. Why do you do all that stuff? What does that help you with in your everyday life and in your career?
It's kind of a trickle-down approach to life. Like, if I start with myself, my body, my mental health, all the things that I can control physically, it eventually will pour over into my personal life, my professional life, my career goals. And because if I have a clear head, a functioning body, and I feel good, I'm able to approach everything with a little bit more positivity, a little bit more energy, and a little bit more success, I guess.
Well, Danny, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I appreciate it so much. And to everybody out there who's drawing in school and can see yourself being an animator, keep going. You got it. And try to surround yourself with some people that make you want to do better. Thank you so much.
Dude, thanks so much for having me. This was a blast. I'm Danny Lipsky, and this is an experiment.
The experience is the experiment.